Hello, whole community. As you know, within what we do, we try to keep it in our community when we talk about healing. We there for each other. And during today's episode, I have my dear brother here, Alaska. Anybody that knows us knows that, we're literally like womb siblings or peacock siblings, as we told you.
That was my little brother.
I am his little brother, I guess, right? But we came together and thought it was really important to share your traumatic experience, but most importantly, focus on how you were able to heal from it. With that said, I would like you to tell us what your experience was and what you went through.
Sheesh.
I know.
Right? Ultimately, this like story of suffering, right? We all have to suffer. Just naturally, humans just suffer.
Yeah.
And as much you try to avoid that, the deeper you get into your dark web of creating a false life, a false appearance. And sometimes people naturally just come to this moment of awakening, like, oh, let me just shift my life. Let me just change this, or
like an epiphany or something,
right? Or sometimes the universe, God, higher power, whatever you want to call it, may just allow a thing to happen that sparks that awakening. So for me, there's a chain of events of losing things that I attach my identity to. If it was my mother, I was a mama's boy, so that was my identity. So I lost my mother, then I was like, oh shit. Then it keeps on going, but when you think you have it figured out, or you think you've like, all right, shit, I've experienced suffering, I lost my mom, I lost my career, or I lost my God, I almost lost my relationship. You think like, after you rebuild these structures in your life or these verticals, you're like, all right, cool, let's take on life. And then the thing you don't expect to happen is what hits you. And for me, that was just my daughter was born. 2 hours later, she passes away. Having to see your partner or your wife go through the full term, give birth to a child, she'll go through the uncomfortable moments. Prior to that, we hated each other. So the thought of the baby gave us a chance to kind of like, oh shit, okay, let's get our shit together. And it's not about us, right?
So let's start there, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had a tough relationship. Right. Why and what was happening in the relationship when you guys found out that you were expecting a baby?
I mean, we were like literally trying to figure out like, do we want to live in the same space together? Do we need a break and just separate? Because we've been together for 14 years.
Married for 10? Yeah.
Married for, this October will be 8 actually.
Okay.
It'll be 8. And we've been together for 7 years dating. So the shit gets stale. Relationships get awkward, stale, or you become roommates, friends, or you go through your shit that you don't deal with. It becomes like we start hating each other, or just like, this is the natural.
Hate is a strong word. Why do you choose?
I mean, hate, because literally it's hate. You would think your partner hates, so you think you're like, what the fuck? Like, why do I feel like I'm living with my enemy? So I mean, like, if you're living with someone, or if someone's considered your enemy, there's some sort of hate there.
And an animosity that kind of festers.
Yeah, resentment. When you don't deal with your own shit, that's on both of our ends, right? So throughout the relationship, we both had to deal with our own personal shit versus trying to deal with your partner shit. Like the easy distraction of let me fix you, or let me acquiesce to you, or let me appease you, versus let me focus on self and make myself better. So we have less friction, less static. You always think it's that person causing it.
Of course, like once you fix you,
right,
like everything's gonna be golden.
Yeah.
Not, like discarding your own journey. Yeah.
Right. My temper's crazy. It's like, you always push my fucking buttons and da-da-da. It's like, bruh. So just responsibility and accepting like, oh, I'm really fucked up, but I want you to know you're fucked up too. We're both fucked up, so let's just try and, right? Because literally everyone in the world has fucking trauma. Everyone's fucked up. Like, how you want to scale it is different. Like, luckily some people come from like dating, had a brother as a bully. Some people were fucking molested. Some people, the list goes on what your trauma is, right? So until you're ready to like face that, it's gonna fester at any relationship you have, I believe. So, because every relationship that you have with someone else is basically your relationship with self. How compassionate, how empathetic are you with self is how you're gonna show up for that person.
Absolutely.
So for our shit, it was just extremely toxic, from years of just not doing the work that's needed to be done. The baby gave us a chance to like, all right, we've been together this long and we've consciously made a choice not to have a child prior. Now we're in a space that's like, put our shit to the side and just focus on this baby and do what it takes.
Yeah.
So it caused me to step up in just manhood in different areas of my life where I didn't realize I really needed that shit. And for her as well. And the way I saw her as well. I just saw a woman creating a child. I was like, holy fuck. Like right in front of my eyes every day was a thing. Like we get an argument, I'll miss a week of like being present with her and see the developments and get pissed that I missed that moment. And I'm like, oh shit, let me put my shit to the side. Because this is fucking a science project.
It's amazing.
It's
really a wonderful miracle to see it. I know during her pregnancy, she had a tough pregnancy. But I also understand, because we've had our conversations, that you were a support. There was a lot that you guys changed and altered in your lifestyle and the way that you were supportive to each other. Like you said, you figured out, like, let me step up. Like, what were some of those things and what was that journey up until right before she gave birth?
I mean, just as a creative, sometimes I come from like working heavy in the music industry, like as an executive, where material and money and all that shit was like the driving factor. Then when I had my sabbatical and coming to Jesus moment,
coming to Jesus moment, for sure. I mean,
whatever you want to call them. I had that moment, coming to mushrooms moment. I stopped caring about materialistic things. I was like, for a moment, I was like, I don't give a fuck. Right? So that also was like money. I was like, money's not a real thing. But when you're married, you have a partner who's like, we got real bills and real shit. I would take on creative projects that would take up a lot of my time, but wouldn't compensate it properly. I wasn't being mindful of that shit. But as much as I needed that to show up at home, it allowed me to value myself more. Where I was like, oh, nah, it's like, oh, pay me for my time. Pay me for my intellectual property. Pay me for the energy and the sleepless nights. Pay me for not staying at home with my wife, for traveling, As a creative, sometimes you find yourself in these loops and patterns of just like overcompensate, giving so much.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So that's one area where it caused me to step up for the relationship, but most importantly for myself, where I was like, I value myself too much just to waste my time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then the child was on a timer, can't even play. I need to do this right now because I have 7 months and this baby's here, like 6 months, and now my wife wants a new mattress because her back hurts. She wants to put the mattress up right now, right before I go to work, but I'm exhausted. In the midst of it, I got so stressed out, I got shingles that popped out on my back because I just couldn't deal with. These are the things that I had to.
Like stress started manifesting.
Yeah. Understanding that, no, you can really stress yourself out so much where you get sick.
Yeah,
dis-ease.
Absolutely.
Your body will not be in ease, and you have disease that attacks your body. I was like, oh shit. So these are things that's like, let me be mindful of all of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So during the time leading up to her delivery date, how were you a support within it all? And I want you kind of like to talk through like the environments that you created of peace around her and around yourself to foster a sense of healing between the two of you.
Right. I think one thing was during just like the development of the child and the changing of the body, my wife had to get constant checkups, and she had a short cervix. So she had to be on bed rest. So she couldn't move around just to make sure that she held the baby long enough to fully develop in the womb, right? So they gave her a thing called the cerclage. so in the midst of taking her to see her checkups, just to make sure she would hold the baby long enough, I didn't get a chance to really go to Lamaze classes. I didn't get a chance to like show up for her in that space, but she and I were like scrambling just to get our lives together, scrambling to figure out what we're doing in our relationship, being really uncomfortable in the house together, and me still having to show up knowing like I don't think she wants to see me right now, but I need to drive her to the doctor's appointment. I need to try my best to read the whole 9 months book and cook the meals that she needs. At that time, in that process, is where I picked up my practice, which would fine tune it daily, where it was like practice goes from how I eat, what my meditation practice looks like, my morning routine, health, make sure I'm playing some sort of frequency in the background, constantly just fine tuning myself.
Right.
And living or creating that space. My wife, thank God, she's an interior designer that uses feng shui as an anchor. It created this environment for us that, although I wasn't able to make it to, we didn't plan for Lamaze classes. We didn't buy anything for the baby. We didn't want to know the gender. We flew blind. We were literally like, all right, actually for the first year or 3, we're just gonna dress it in like khaki, blue, and white, and all like fabric.
Yeah.
Right. Just like I'm not gonna stress buying clothes and all that.
Right.
So we were just Lamaze class, all that. We didn't get a chance to even commit to that. But luckily, when we had to run to the hospital, I didn't have like a baby bag prepared overnight. She like just threw up. I gave her a bath, cleaned her up to see like, I was like, oh shit, I think this is happening. She threw in a robe. She's like, should I just go in the robe? I was like, yeah, go ahead. It's like, it's plush, it's comfortable. That's all you want. You just want to be comfortable. I grabbed the Bluetooth speaker, my iPhone, and lavender spray because I knew I could have incense. And I just went to the hospital. So we're driving there. They're like, do you guys have anything? I just had a basket of that stuff in there.
Yeah.
But we were there for 3 days. But what we did is that we dimmed down the lights, turned on the music, make sure we had our playlist going on, kept spraying lavender just to calm her, and we were meditating and breathing. So it's just constantly just being present. I believe naturally the body, the mind knows what to do.
Yeah, I believe that.
When you don't allow it just to go fucking crazy, or if you're not dependent of an outside source to give you instructions, right? I'm not saying these instructions aren't helpful, because the way I got to it was an outside source.
Yeah.
That directed me to like, oh, you are the source of calm,
Correct.
of peace, of. So everything that we did just naturally, when it's time for her to breathe, she was breathing. I was walking her through it. She had amazing moments. This is a woman who's like afraid of needles, let alone like she was about to spit out a human being, you know, like her body she was going through it, but she just took it like a champ. They were all proud of her, of how well she did. They were just like, oh my God, you guys are so, you know, they were asking us about like, what was our process preparing? We was like, no, this is just, every time the doctor walked into the room, she's like, it's so peaceful in here. It's like, what level are you at in your contraction? She's like, I think I'm at a 10. She's like, if this is a 10, because she was just so calm.
So calm, right.
So zenned out. And I was just like so proud at this. I was like, holy shit. And as you see your partner step up to the occasion of anything, a job, career, championship, or giving birth, giving life, it makes you respect that person so much more. So the healing was happening throughout the midst of this. You know what I'm saying? Down to actually, baby comes out and they're like, do you want to touch her, and hold it? I was like, oh my God. I was like freaking out, right? So I'll go run and hold the baby.
And she was crying when she came out?
No, that she wasn't responsive. She like kicked, but she wasn't responsive. And it was crazy. We took a picture. Took a picture of that moment, but on my face it was like this thing. It was like a smirk more than a laughter or of joy. But it was like a feeling that I felt before. I was kind of like, oh fuck! Like immediately it was like if you know what death feels like, or when my mother passed away, or whatever, I felt this emptiness where I was kind of like, oh, fuck. So, like, they go from that, they pass the baby over to, they're like, should we let her hold it? They wanted the baby to have contact with the mother to see if that gives. NICU team had the table before the incubator, just pumping. Had me go over there, want me to touch her, see if my energy would like help. I'm stuck in between two worlds at that moment. So it's like I know my wife is over there, who just gave birth to a child, and some lady literally just jumped on her stomach, like punching her fucking her uterus, getting it back in place, and making sure that all the entire placenta's out. I'm sitting here with the child, kind of like, what the fuck? And Kim looks up, she's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" I'm like, "Oh no, we're just." I was like, "I don't know, I'm just watching. I'm just watching, babe. I'm just watching." I like didn't want to speak on it, but it's like the feeling just kept growing and growing. I was like, "Fuck, God, please don't do this shit right now." Like, it was so not ever in the thought. Like going to our everyday checkups, they try not to give you too much hope. Like, oh, okay, it's just week, whatever, because they don't want to get people's hopes up, right? By week 29, when we get there, they're like, all right, guys, 95% chance. This is the number two hospital in the country for early childbirths. So at that point, we're like, Kim and I were like staples in our community.
How early was she?
She's 29 weeks, so it's 7 months and a week, I believe.
Okay.
The funny thing is, driving to the hospital, my brother calls me, and I'm like, yo, I can't even talk right now. I'm heading to the hospital. He's like, oh shit, you having the baby early? I was like, yeah, having her at 7 months. He's like, oh, I was born at 7 months, but that was 42 years ago in Haiti. I was like, he told me that. I was like, almost like, yes, motherfucker, we did this, you know?
Right.
Because you think you know. Like, whenever you think you fucking know, you don't. Like, it's good to be confident, all that shit, but right there, I was just like, oh shit, all right, 7 months in Haiti, 42 years ago, and this is in 2019?
Right.
In America?
Right.
America? Go in there. We're the staple of our community. We're like the couple, like, strong couple. We've been through shit. We're resilient. This is not supposed to happen. They're pumping her heart for 2 hours. I have to go upstairs to the ICU with her now. She's incubated. I have to sign off on, like, we need a blood transfusion. We need to make sure that the blood we're giving her it's not affected with HIV or anything. Please sign off here. And they're asking me to do all these things. I'm kind of like, at this point, I'm just like numb.
Right.
Because I'm just sitting there for like 2 hours just staring at them working on her. I'm just like working. I'm just like, yo. I was like, I can't believe it. And the fucked up part is like you're just watching yourself not being able to do nothing. So you're just sitting there watching like, all right, okay. Sign here. What are they doing? They're putting these things to her belly button. You see like her pigment getting darker and darker. And I'm just like, you know what the outcome is. After a while, I'm just kind of like, yo, just stop. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I don't want to see this. Like, I can't even get my mouth to say this shit. It's like, I want this whole scene to stop. Like, it's not how I intended it to be. I don't want to see what's going on right now. Then they walk up to me and it's like, we're going to stop because we're doing more damage than. I'm like, all right. It's like, all right, we have to go get your wife now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got to tell this woman what? I mean, y'all got to tell her. I was like, I got to tell her. First and foremost, I can't. She goes through all that shit. And when you give birth to the child comes out, you want to pay off, and I have to tell her, it's like,
yeah.
I couldn't even tell her shit. I couldn't even sit. The words couldn't come out my mouth. I was like, babe, I'm so proud of you. I'm trying to. She's like, what's wrong? I'm like, They escort her upstairs. I'm walking. She's in a wheelchair. Craziness. Um, it's crazy because the thing is about and these are the rationing thoughts that you come with yourself.
Right.
You allow yourself to go crazy because I allowed myself to go fucking nuts.
Right. You have to feel it.
I was like at that moment I was kind of like, all right, am I going to become like a raging alcoholic? Am I going to be like a man whore? Am I just going to be like a fucking titan entrepreneur and just go fucking after real estate?
Right.
I was trying to figure out what the fuck do I want to do now.
How
like,
do I handle? Like,
yeah.
how do I come back?
At that moment, I was like, what is that? I was like, fuck, drugs and alcohol like played out. I don't want to do that shit. I don't have enough energy to put in fucking multiple women.
Right.
I'm like, fucking business. I was trying to find some shit that really sparked it. Because I was just like, oh, fuck this.
Yeah.
Lost career, lost my mother, lost all these things, lost. And this was the last. I was like,
right.
All right.
Like, what do I do after this?
Right. You know? But immediately, the crazy part is, as I was preparing for the child, I was leveling up just in my life, like responsibility.
Yeah.
Just showing up for myself, being on time, meditating every fucking morning. Doesn't matter what my night looked like. Like, my diet.
Right.
Whatever my practice is, there's no end to whatever I'm doing. The fine tuning of Alaska. There's no.
It's a continuation.
Yeah, this shit doesn't go forever. So I really took it in strides. Like, all right, this is what you're gonna do it for. That you have something to work for, right? When that gets taken away from you, and you're like, it takes 21 days to form a habit, with 66 days to really lock it into your system. I was doing that shit for 8 months, like preparing.
Yeah.
Like throughout the past 8 years of my life, I've been doing a little retreat here, some yoga there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You're aware of it,
Yeah.
and it's part. It's like, yeah, you know.
Listen to some
I'm aware.
podcasts.
Right.
I may finish the book, may not.
Right.
But I really, for those 8 months, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna commit to everything that I fucking do and just show the fuck up. So when it gets taken away, you lose your steam because you go fucking like, I don't know why I'm doing anything. Like, me being a fucking plant-based vegan, meditator, God lover, my wife being healthy, strong, black woman, all this shit, the odds of us having a child, a healthy child, ideally you think it's going to be.
Right.
But none of that shit matters. The humans are just humans. It's a numbers game. It's like mathematics. It's like literally like, sometimes it's a fucking glitch and it's like, you know, it's like, oh, we got to fix that algorithm in the thing. Right? Because like, that was never expected to be the outcome of our story. Yeah. Like, our family's been waiting. I was like, oh, you're finally having a kid. You guys did it right. You waited and did it right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, as you go through all of that preparing, it got taken away, but still, I still had that momentum of still waking up every day and meditating. Like, when I didn't know what to do, I'm like waking up crying like a motherfucker after like 3 months of that shit. One day I woke up, I was like, oh fuck, all right, I gotta dive into my practice, because it's all practice. It doesn't.
So the first, you're saying, like, after that day when you guys left the hospital.
Yeah, we were in the hospital for 4 days after. We were afraid to leave the hospital because it became like our Stockholm syndrome. Like, the staff there was our family.
Yeah.
Each staff member walked into the room, gave my wife a hug, cried on her chest. That's like against policy. You can't even do that shit. This one woman, I forgot, Denise, she's like, no, this is what's supposed to happen to you guys. No, like, just crumbled. And like, we're consoling them at that moment. Then they would leave the room. One moment, I'll just wake up from like a nap and I'll just see my wife just fucking crying, screaming on the phone, and I'm sitting there just like, can't even say nothing. I'm like laying in the bed with her, the hospital bed, because I can't even get out the bed. We're all fucked up. Then the next morning she sees me. I'm sitting in the corner, just like eyes are bulging on my head, fucking crying, just like screaming, wanting to scream, but nothing coming out. And I'm watching myself literally go like crazy, like fucking. My mind's like, oh,
Yeah.
like can't contain it. That went on for like probably like 3 months, like 2.5, 3 months. Like it was like every day.
Yeah.
Got the hospital. We had a lot of friends and family, community came in, flew in. Our family slept over, took our phones away from us, responded to people, took care of like any arrangement that needed to be done, for the child or the hospital, the bills, all that shit. Like we just fell into our community. Like we had no responsibility. I couldn't answer anyone. Had no. Everyone just showed up like it was like an army.
Yeah.
Kim calls them the SWAT.
I love
The SWAT team just came in. Camille landed off a plane. She ordered me my favorite meal. Got Kim all of her smell good things and all her like things just to make her feel comfortable, feminine, and all that shit. My boy Coda, all my guys just came in. One of my guys, Sinclair, came in, and I was so busy, just caught up in my wife just losing her shit constantly. Like I was on edge. Like I couldn't move because I was like, fuck, she might have a panic attack, and I want to be there with her while she has it. That I just forgot about my shit. My boy came up, I hugged him, and he's like literally my height. There's not too many people like that's exactly my height. I hugged him, and I fucking collapsed in his chest, and I just started crying so hard. I didn't know how much I needed just the physical hug of another person.
Yeah.
Just like the feeling of this.
Yeah.
Male, female, doesn't matter. I just melted. I was like, fuck. I was like, thank God you're so tall.
I can see your thoughts.
Yeah,
process.
so I was
Like, oh my God, this feels good. Why does it feel so good? I can let go.
Like, chest.
Right.
I get why women want to cry in the chest. Yes. Oh, this is magic.
Right.
That human connection.
Essential.
Yeah.
Essential.
That community, that bond. And it was like, I was like, fuck, thank you so much. He flew from New York. He heard about this shit. And he travels the world daily doing his shit. But he dropped everything and flew here. I was like, bro. Like, he bailed me out of, like, many life situations. Like, gave me opportunities, hooked me up, gave me my first bartending gig 15, 16 years ago.
Right.
As a kid in New York. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He always hooked up, like, just looked out just because he's a good person, never
Right.
wanting nothing in return. And we've always kept a good relationship, but that day he showed up, I was like, bro, I didn't know how bad I needed you here. And my wife called him.
Isn't that a beautiful thing?
Sorry, I'm cutting you. The real beautiful thing is, the way he came is like, behind my back, my wife was like, yo, because we had all the people coming in. She's like, yo, Sinclair, I need you here now. Alaska needs you. He needs you.
So she was thinking about you too.
In the midst of her shit. Then that's when all the other shit just melts away because it's like life and death. Like all the other bullshit that we were caught up on, that we weren't able to be present for each other, to know what we need. The shit ceased. As soon as the baby came to, term and all that happened, the healing started like on the tail end and like immediately talking about boom, 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 boom.
Between the two of you.
Between everything in my life. Like literally, whoever's your life purpose, it could be accomplished in 3 years, 6 years, 10 years, 20, 50, 100 years, hopefully. Sometimes this shit goes like this, 2 hours. And like the pain I felt at that moment, I feel like I felt the pain of what a beautiful young girl will put his father through throughout her whole teens, development, marriage, all that shit hit me immediately at once. Like every pain I ever felt, I've never felt anything like that, hit me right there. And then all the healing, me and my dad, we were like fucked up for years. He called me his child for the first time. I fucking melted. He's like, oh, my child. And I was like, I even know I needed to hear that. I was like, why? He's like, oh, my child, sometimes we have no answer. And I just fucking melted. I was like, Dad, that's all I wanted from you all these years, man. I just wanted you to call me your child. So like all this shit is happening. I was like, and the crazy thing as the observer now, right? Just watching myself go through my experience versus being so subjected to my experience. Right. I'm watching these things happen. I'm kind of like, yo, God, like, fuck, thank you for healing. It came to the most craziest, like, vehicle.
Oh my God.
You know, it's like, boom.
Right.
But it just gave me a different perspective of like, oh, you're going to do it. If you're going to have the relationship, have it.
Right.
If you, whatever it is, just really don't
be present.
Yeah.
Accept everything and go through everything. You know, you named her.
Yeah.
I would love to hear what her name was and what the meaning was behind her name.
Ashai Hiroki Gedeon. Ashai is Egyptian for abundance, and abundance in community, relationship, wealth. Hiroki is Japanese. It's for abundance as well. We didn't know if it was going to be a male or female. It's more leaning on the masculine. In Japanese, it's more masculine, and Egyptian, it's more feminine. Mm-hmm. And the Japanese abundance is more of knowledge and love.
Wow.
So a friend of mine, thank you, a friend of mine told me when he was being born, they named him Salim, which means peace. But him and his father and his mother were going to fucking war in the house. And it wasn't an intentional that they named it peace. But like maybe 23 years later, they got back together. But I'm like, yo, if you're constantly using the affirmation peace, whenever you call his name in the house.
Absolutely.
Whenever you talk about it with your partner. So for us, like, we believe in abundance, that we lack no thing. Everything we have it right here. So that was supposed to be our constant reminder. Abundance. That baby like shifted our lives like in a way that was like, oh, okay.
Where are you now in your healing process?
Where am I now in my healing process? I think suffering is an inevitable thing, and we suffer in multiple areas in our lives, right? Suffering is that thing where it's similar to having to use the restroom while you're sleeping, mm-hmm. but you're tossing and turning, you don't want to wake up to relieve yourself, and then finally at one point you're like, fuck, I'm just going to get up and go take a piss. Go up, take a piss, lay back in bed, you're no longer suffering, and now you're back into your sleep until you wake up, until the cycle happens again, right? For me, healing is an ongoing process. The suffering, that's a norm, right? And it's constantly waking up in these different areas. If it's financially, if it's relationship, if it's health-wise, you know, these are the areas we train. So I'm constantly healing. I'm grateful for the experiences that allow me to heal or allow me to wake up from my suffering. Because no one suffers consciously.
Absolutely.
Right? It's unconscious suffering. Once you're conscious of the thing, you're no longer suffering. Like, you're aware of it. So it's like, oh, this shit's here?
Yeah.
All right, I'm aware of it now.
You can look at it.
Look at it and deal with it, you know? So in these areas, I'm just grateful that I'm like, fuck, the shit I've been through, like it was a decade recap on Instagram, was it? My 10-year recap?
Right.
I was like, all right, guys, I got one for you. Right?
Facts, though.
But
Facts.
I'm so grateful that, as cliche as all the sayings are, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And it literally does. Because I'm not fazed by just certain things. Like, I don't care.
And the key is to not give up.
Right.
and not quit in your healing process and thinking that you've hit a wall or the end or anything like
Word.
that. Similar to how you said, like, the healing doesn't stop. Healing doesn't stop, or your growing and your practice should never stop. It is a continuous, like, consciousness and, like, awakening that you have to, like, once you hit this, do better, be better.
The next
do
one.
better, be better.
Yes.
And it's always going to get better. You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's something I think is really hard to see when you're in the midst of being encapsulated by something as traumatic as you just described.
Right.
And
Right.
sorry, but you know, and it's like, how do you even bring yourself to say, like how you said you went through the options, right? Drugs, alcohol, mad whore, or you know, like you ran down the list of like how do I destroy myself the fastest because I feel ruined inside.
Word.
Do you know what I mean? Because that's exactly where those options take you.
Yeah.
You know, but what was it for you that made you choose peace and your continuous healing journey versus destruction?
I think it was I want to refer back to practice. It was this thing in me that, because I was doing the research prior.
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated with the human body, the human mind, the spirit. What happens after this? What's behind this?
Yeah.
So I started tapping into this ever since childhood. It started from Christianity, if it went to Islam, if it went to Buddhism, if it went to yoga, if it went to creating music, creating art. There was always this thing behind this untangible energy. Yeah. So as I was trying to pick which way to go, I was really just trusting what felt right. If I knew I could start from scratch there. Like rock bottom, I'm so grateful for rock bottom. Every time I hit, I always think, rock bottom. No, that's good. I'm grateful for rock bottom because it gives you opportunity to start all over and everything. It gave me opportunity to start all over of my relationship. How do we want to, every like 7 years or so, we would have this thing that happened. Like, all right, how do we want to redefine this thing? How does it look to us?
Yeah.
Because when we got married, we were devout Christians, and I was about to be a deacon in the middle of Times Square in New York City. And then I was like a music executive guy. I was like, hey, right? Then I became like a fucking barefooted hippie shaman. Like, oh, there's the mushrooms in the backyard. Nice. But she followed me throughout that whole shit. Right?
She was like, all right, I see where you are. What's next?
Right. But sometimes she's like, what's next? It also came out like that sometimes. I was kind of like, calm down. We all don't know what's next.
But patient nonetheless.
Yes. So it was that. But it's like, I just saw myself. It's like, all right, what's your choice? How do you want this story to pan out? Start from rock bottom. This is after I was like coming out of like the mourning. In the morning,
it's tough.
I didn't make a decision.
Right.
I was like, I don't even know. I'm like, I might move to Mexico and just be good.
And I think you did well with just accepting that this was mourning and grieving.
Right.
And not like brushing over and trying to rush through the feeling or the emotions of it all.
The thing, I did that with my mother. She passed away. I just kept it moving. I was working. Didn't deal with that shit. It came out so much later when it was my relationship. But in my life, I didn't realize how much I missed my mom in certain areas. So this time around again, because suffering doesn't stop. Once you think you got it, you don't. I was like, oh shit, you got to deal with this for real now. You got to deal with death and what that looks like, what that feels like. And you got to be honest and be able to cry in your boy's chest versus having to be strong to give your mom's eulogy. It's two different, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you are paying attention to the practice, the experience, the day-to-day, you can see loops and the patterns of certain things that you may have missed the first go around. I always feel like, I'm this time again. It's like, but I'm at an elevated place. It's a different playing field. So
new level, new devil.
Right? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, mom, baby, okay.
And I just love what you mentioned too, with like with each level or each challenge you elevate, and your capacity to handle the pain, it becomes more tolerable and better, or you better equipped then. Yeah. I think we're so afraid when we start looking far ahead, like how will I ever be able to deal with that? It's like, you probably can't now.
Right.
But stay with it and continue your practice and grow where you need to grow so that every challenge that comes to you, you're equipped to handle that. You know?
Challenges are good. it's like I don't want to. I would never want to choose or handpick anyone's challenge for them,
Right.
or mine either. But if you get through it, it's a guarantee that it won't hurt as much the next time around in anything. And then once you get to that space, you start choosing your own challenges, business, relate, like constantly choosing those challenges.
So that you don't have to.
So you don't have to just get these random challenges that pop up and shit.
Right.
It's like you can't plan everything, but
Right.
you plan your challenges out and you get better at that thing. You get better at that space,
Yeah.
that capacity.
Right.
You maximize that opportunity, that space. And it's like, all right, the next one is not going to be hard, that difficult. So that's why when people offer me to say jobs for the same thing I was doing 5-7 years ago, when I lost my career, I'm like, nah, bro, I can't even do that shit no more. Like, I've added so much more to my repertoire of dealing with people, dealing with stress, dealing with the crazy fucking life experience in the midst of finishing a project. You got to pay me for that shit. Because the challenges that I go through life,
Pay me my money.
yeah, to keep sanity,
Yeah.
to still show up for other people.
Right.
When you hate them, when there's conflict, I still show up. The same thing that I learned in my relationship, I bring to business relationships. I gotta make sure you can do the same thing. So these challenges that come up, these suffering that come up, I thank God for suffering. I thank God for all that. I thank God for uncomfortable moments, just because it just makes me more adaptable in different spaces.
Right. Well, Alaska, my brother, thank you so much for sharing your story. I hope that anybody that sees this can relate and understand, and choose and grow like you did, because I know there's a lot of people that are experiencing similar pain out there today.
Community, number one, guys. Please have a community you can turn to. You're going through this shit. The surprising factor was that, other people go through this.
Yes.
I was so surprised that other people go through this. You don't hear about it. You hear about, we had a baby and da-da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
And the baby daddy left, or the mama this, or even the mother passes away. You hear that. But you don't hear like, oh yeah, you can still come to 95% chance of survival and still be that 5% who doesn't make it.
Right.
Because the trigger that tells you to breathe when you're in above water,
Yeah.
it never went off in the child's mind. So that little thing there, they just couldn't activate it. It just couldn't happen. And you're like, that's it? That's the little glitch?
Man. Whole community. Thank you so much for sticking around and listening to my beautiful brother's story. Take away the gems he shared. And for more interviews like this and stories and conversations, please go to our website at www.weheartourlives.com and sign up and share your story. Please share your story, because we all need to know that we all are struggling. We all are trying to do better. We're not alone. We're alone together, but it's better than that. My brother.
I love you, sister. Word, thank you. Appreciate that.
That was good. That's good. That's okay.
Thanks for